Hi, I'm Kris Oldland, Editor-in-Chief of Field Service News, and welcome to this excerpt from a recent fieldservicenews.com webcast. In the full webcast, I was joined by Michael Smythe and Alice Walton from eBecs, and during that conversation, Alice actually guided us through in real time a live setup of a site assessment survey, something that allows field service organisations to be able to collect data from the field each and every time and have that data easily accessible across their field service management solution based around the site assessment survey tool from eBecs and working in the Microsoft Dynamics field service system. It's fantastically powerful and it was an incredibly easy setup. I was amazed. So if you want to check that full webcast out, please do click the link below. If you're not a subscriber and you haven't been sent a link to access this webcast yet, click the link below and you can take 2 minutes to register, and we will send you links to either download the webcast straight from our Dropbox, or you can access it on an exclusive private link only available to fieldservicenews.com subscribers. Of course, please do check our terms and conditions as well as understand our data usage, which is all labelled on fieldservicenews.com/subscribe as well. But now let's have a look at the excerpt where I spoke a little bit more in depth with Alice and Michael about how some of their clients are using these tools, what kind of training it takes to utilise these tools, and what kind of benefits are some of their clients seeing from collecting data via their service engineers out in the field, and just how easy that is to set up. I hope you enjoy the excerpt and we'll speak to you again soon. Take care.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Alice. That was really useful to be able to actually see the tools being used and how you guys build the surveys, etc. I thought that was quite illuminating. I've just got a couple of questions for you both, if I may put these to you, just to kind of drill in a little bit further. First of all, I'd like to kind of focus in on how some of your clients are using these tools. I know we've talked about the site assessment survey and these tools a few times now. Perhaps we could drill into some examples of use cases from your clients, because I can imagine there's quite a number of different applications for the site survey tools, particularly. So how are people using it? I don't know if either of you wants to jump in on that.
Yeah, I suppose, as hopefully you've gleaned from Alice's demonstration there, that it's a tool which has almost infinite flexibility, and it can range from incredibly simple to incredibly complex field engagements. I think, to give you a couple of examples, one of our customers, Glass Solutions, part of the Saint-Gobain group, responsible for a huge amount of commercial glazing installation, repair and maintenance across the UK. They are using that with a fleet of hundreds of engineers to do everything from designing the window layout and the frame layouts for new and replacement installations, to replacing, I think it's something in the region of about 120 odd paper-based forms, all digitized to be able to do that transition from paper to digital. So that's kind of one use case. Another example is a customer of ours called Posturite. Posturite, based down in the southeast of England, UK-wide geographical coverage, delivering occupational health style surveys. So visiting clients at their desks and recording all sorts of pertinent personal information about requirements around adjustable desks and chairs and so on and so forth. And obviously that has elements of data protection and security around all of that information that's being collected, and they then fulfill the requirements. They provide a quotation on the back of that, and then fulfill the order associated with the correct hardware required for that individual. So that actually replaced an existing survey management solution that they already had in place, but they saw the benefit of having something that was fully integrated as part of Dynamics, because they have a very wide product set, and as that changes, they can just adjust their surveys to fit. So those are the two that come off the top.
That's interesting. Something that I was thinking during the presentation. It's one of the key benefits that your clients are having. It seems you've mentioned one of them there is the kind of the easy flow of the data within the Dynamics ecosystem. What are the kind of pieces of feedback that you guys are getting when people are using these type of tools in terms of the key benefits? Are there any benefits that people are coming to you and discovering, as is often the case, secondary benefits that perhaps they might not have anticipated, or what are the key drivers for them implementing in the first place?
Well, beyond the key, the obvious things about being able to have the data collected in the manner that you want it collected with the relevant amount of control in the field. That's the whole purpose of the thing in the first place. But I think one of the things that is becoming increasingly apparent to us is that because it's a tool, it isn't a survey solution. It is a tool which enables people to be able to define their own data capture requirements. It enables companies, regardless of their industry, to be able to make changes to their service level offering, to their product set, to meet legislative changes. It's a very dynamic world out there, and they're able to make those tweaks, bring in new product lines, new service offerings without having to have recourse to us. Masters of their own destiny is the term I like to use, and that would be the principal feedback we're getting.
Okay, that leads us quite neatly. It gives us a good segue into the training, because you mentioned there, Michael, that it's a tool that you guys offer. It's not the solution. Obviously, there is a level of responsibility for each organisation, I assume, to drive the insight and the knowledge that they're going to get from the research, the site surveys for themselves, and of course nobody will know their business better than them. So is the training that you guys offer specifically geared around how to utilise the tool, basically giving them the tools to be able to go out and stand on their own feet, as it were? And how long does that training take as well? You mentioned, Alice, a couple of times that there was training that you provide. Maybe we can just look at the specifics around that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing to say is that we can cut our cloth accordingly. So if we have organisations who have no IT capability whatsoever, have barely got a dynamic super user within the business, and even if they did, that person's too busy to do this kind of stuff. So we can provide that full turnkey solution and deliver customized templates for them. However, I'm pains to remind you that it is a tool. It is there to be used by the customers to be able to give themselves their own automation. So to answer your question bluntly, it's 2 days. I mean, unless there is anything particularly idiosyncratic or quirky, or there's new requirement or new functionality required within the system that just doesn't exist yet. That's becoming a very short list now. It's 2 days to get a competent. It doesn't even have to be an IT user. It doesn't even have to be a super user. It can just be somebody that is a competent Dynamics user, up to speed with how to create and deploy these surveys out to the field.
Okay, and is that done online over digital sessions, or do you go in to meet with them? Because I know at the beginning of the presentation you mentioned having boots on the ground across the world. How does that training usually take place?
Again, that's a really that's a question which is it depends on what the client needs. So some of our customers are field service management organisations. Some of our customers are other partners, other Microsoft partners. So it's whatever works best. And we have, as of right now, I can think 2 of my clients that are currently in flight being deployed remotely. One is in Switzerland, the other one's in the Netherlands. And the guys that are liaising with them are in Chesterfield. So we can cut our costs accordingly.
Yeah, so there's flexibility there essentially, which is to be expected, but also these things are key to double check and kind of look into. With regards to the surveys and the surveys being created, then this may be a little bit of a logical fallacy on my part, and a leap of incorrect logic, but it seems, as you mentioned, it's 2 days to kind of get your head around how to create these surveys. It seemed from Alice's presentation fairly straightforward in terms of quite familiar to many of us that have spent any time within the Microsoft ecosystems, whether it be Dynamics or even some of the other sides of the wider ecosystem. Fairly drag and drop functionality. It seems very, very intuitive to me, at least. Is there a limit on how many surveys can be created? Because I just have this image of people going out and creating a different survey for every possible scenario. I mean, I'm curious on two trains of thought here. Is that possible? Is there a set amount of surveys they can create per month, say, or is there any limitations on that? And B, is it advisable? Because is there a case that it could be overkill? So you don't want to do too many surveys because then the data becomes hard to manage. Do you guys have any advice and guidance on that as well?
Yeah, so I'll take that one. So I've got a couple of things to pick up on that. So one of the things to note is that it's all security driven with Inside Dynamics as well. So only people that have the ability to create surveys can actually create them. So that's one thing. So you're not necessarily opening it up to everyone, just creating any type of survey they want. So really, we advise that a customer has, control and management over the surveys that are being created, so that there's not like duplicate surveys for the same thing. Yeah. And then the other thing is that there isn't actually a limit on the amount of surveys that can be created. It's just a case of the data storage limit inside Dynamics. You get a certain amount of data storage for the whole organization. So essentially, it's just adding another record to that. And in terms of actually conducting the survey, so you can have as many templates as you want, but with one of our customers at the moment, they're actually using it where they use our child survey feature. So the way that this works is if they go out on site to do a break fix for a boiler and they do a compliance like boiler inspection report, but then they actually come across another issue whilst they're there on site, they can actually then create a child survey for another inspection, and ultimately that's linked back to the master survey. So you can use whichever template they want for that, and they're just creating a new survey record, and it means it's all linked back. So there's definitely different ways that we would advise our customers to do it, and that would all be part of the training process. We'd go through setting up the child surveys correctly and helping them work out how many templates they need.
Yeah, no, that makes more sense actually now, because my fear was this. Data always becomes unwieldy if we don't know exactly where it's going, etc. And it makes more sense to have that kind of master survey, as you say, and then things feeding out so you can get all of the benefits of those additional data input points, but without it being kind of unwieldy and unmanageable. Okay, one final question from me, guys. Who do you find, and this is just anecdotally, who do you find drives the usage of these surveys forwards within an organization? Is it being driven by the field service manager? Is it being driven by perhaps people with a health and safety kind of hat on, customer engagement hats on, etc.? Who's driving the kind of usage of the surveys being collected out in the field? And if either of you want to take a point on that one.
I was with you up until the last few words you mentioned there, Kris, in terms of out in the field. One thing to make really clear is that this isn't just for field-based activities. As Alice mentioned in the demo, it can be used for things like call scripting and that kind of thing within the Dynamics interface in call center type environments. And I suppose that's in a way answers the question, because it depends on the type of Dynamics engagement that we're engaged in already. If the customer has purchased Dynamics in order to deliver a field service element, then it's going to be the field service processes and the field service team that are driving the utilization of it. However, what we do see is that once one element of the business is using it and seeing the benefits of standardized process flows and the ability to be able to quickly return information and share it and interrogate it, then that bleeds out into the contact center. It bleeds out into the sales team that would be then going out to be doing quotes and so on and so forth, and surveys that might then lead to the sale of a service contract. So it's what we do see is that it might be instigated by a particular part of the business or a particular role within the business. Let's say, the field service management team, but then it then bleeds out to the rest of the business pretty rapidly, and further demonstrates the capability of Dynamics to be able to remove the silos that exist within business. A single tool to rule them all.
Yeah, makes sense. This is something that we're seeing more and more often as well, especially with a platform like Dynamics, for example, where, and as you say, it sits across all of the various different business functions, and it's the breaking down of those silos so the data can flow effortlessly across the business. But then what we're seeing is tools for one. Let's say it's implemented by the field service organization, and somebody within the contact center side of the business sees that and thinks, geez, that's pretty good. Let's what can we do? Why can't I have that? And I've seen that move in both ways, and I'm seeing it more frequently. So it's an interesting answer there, Michael. Thank you very much for that. And that brings us pretty much to the end of the presentation for today. So just an opportunity for me to say thank you very much to Alice Walton and Michael Smythe from eBecs. My name is Kris Oldland. I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Field Service News. And thank you for you all for tuning in and listening in as always. And we shall see you again soon. Take care.